The night was dark, and the rain pounded relentlessly against the windows of my trusty Toyota. I sat behind the wheel, the dashboard clock reading 2:37 a.m. The eerie glow of streetlights cast long, haunting shadows on the deserted streets. It was the kind of night where you half expected a ghostly figure to materialize at any moment. You see, I had been an Uber driver for several years, and I thought I had seen it all. Drunk passengers, overly chatty ones, and even a couple of romantic encounters that unfolded in the backseat of my car. But nothing could have prepared me for the mysterious and spine-chilling encounter that awaited me on that fateful night. I had just dropped off a passenger in a quiet residential neighborhood when my phone pinged with a new ride request. It was a bit unusual for a ride to come in at this hour, but I figured someone was working a late shift and needed a lift home. I accepted the ride and made my way to the pickup location, a dimly lit street corner. As I pulled up to the curb, I noticed two figures standing there, huddled together under a single umbrella. Two young women, drenched from the rain, approached my car and climbed into the back seat. They were shivering, their clothes clinging to their bodies. "Thank you for picking us up," one of them said, her voice trembling with cold. "Of course," I replied, trying to sound reassuring. "Where can I take you ladies tonight?" The two women exchanged a glance, and then one of them spoke up. "Just drive, please. We'll tell you where to go." I raised an eyebrow, but decided not to press the issue. Some passengers preferred not to share their destinations right away, and I respected their privacy. I pulled away from the curb and merged into the empty streets, the rain continuing its relentless assault on my windshield. The atmosphere inside the car was tense. I could feel it in the air, as though an unspoken fear had settled in the back seat. The two women whispered to each other, their voices low and hurried. It was clear that something was amiss, but I didn't want to intrude. After a few minutes of driving in silence, the passenger on the right finally spoke up. "We're sorry for being so secretive, but we're in a bit of a bind. You see, we're trying to get away from someone." My heart skipped a beat at the revelation. "Is someone following you?" I asked, my concern growing. The two women exchanged another glance, and the one on the left nodded. "Yes, we think so. We can't be sure, but we've been seeing a car behind us for a while now, ever since we left a party." My mind raced as I tried to figure out what to do. The situation had taken a sinister turn, and I wanted to ensure the safety of my passengers. "Do you want me to call the police?" I asked. They hesitated, clearly torn. "Not yet," the one on the right said. "Let's try to lose them first. Maybe it's just a coincidence." I nodded and focused on the road ahead, my senses on high alert. I changed lanes and took a few turns in an attempt to shake off the mysterious pursuer, but the other car remained stubbornly behind us. It was a black sedan, its headlights piercing through the darkness like the eyes of a relentless predator. The tension inside the car grew thicker with each passing minute. The rain continued to pour, and the windshield wipers worked overtime to keep up. I could see the fear in my passengers' eyes as they exchanged worried glances. "We need to do something," the one on the left said, her voice trembling. But before we could come up with a plan, something inexplicable happened. The black sedan suddenly swerved to the side of the road and came to a screeching halt. Its brake lights illuminated the wet pavement for a moment before it turned off the engine. I slowed down my car cautiously, keeping a safe distance from the mysterious vehicle. The two women in the back seat were wide-eyed, their hands clutching each other in fear. "What do you think they're doing?" I whispered. "I have no idea," one of them replied, her voice barely audible. We watched in silence as the occupants of the black sedan remained inside, their dark figures barely visible through the rain-soaked windows. Minutes stretched into an eternity, and it felt like the entire world had been reduced to that desolate street corner. Just when I was about to suggest calling the police, the unexpected occurred. The black sedan's doors opened, and two figures stepped out. They were both tall and dressed in dark, hooded raincoats. Their faces were obscured by the hoods, making it impossible to see their features. The two women in my car gasped in unison, and one of them muttered, "This can't be real." As the figures from the black sedan approached, a sense of unease washed over me. I felt as though I had stepped into a surreal and nightmarish world where logic and reason had no place. The rain continued to pour, and the streetlights cast eerie shadows on the unfolding scene. One of the hooded figures raised an arm and pointed directly at my car. It was an unsettling gesture, as though they had singled us out from the darkness. The other figure began to advance toward us, their footsteps slow and deliberate. Panic gripped my passengers, and one of them cried out, "Drive! Just drive!" I needed no further encouragement. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, and my car shot forward, leaving the hooded figures behind. The black sedan remained stationary, its occupants watching us retreat into the rainy night. We drove in silence for what felt like an eternity, our hearts pounding in our chests. I didn't know who those hooded figures were or what they wanted, but I knew one thing for sure. We had narrowly escaped a situation that defied explanation. Finally, one of the women broke the silence. "Thank you," she said, her voice quivering with emotion. "You saved us back there." I glanced at her in the rearview mirror, my own heart still racing. "I'm just glad I could help. Do you want me to take you to the police station now?" They exchanged a glance, and then one of them spoke. "No. Just take us home. We'll figure things out from there." I nodded and continued to drive through the rain-soaked streets, the city shrouded in a cloak of mystery and uncertainty. The events of that night would forever remain unexplained, a dark and chilling encounter that defied rationality. As I dropped off the two women at their destination, they thanked me again and offered to pay extra for my trouble. I declined their offer, feeling that I had been part of something inexplicable and extraordinary. As they stepped out of the car and disappeared into the safety of their home, I couldn't help but wonder about the mysterious hooded figures and the sinister black sedan. What had they wanted, and why had they singled us out on that rainy night? I may never have the answers to those questions, but one thing was certain. The unexplained mysteries of that night would stay with me forever.